As a dad of two, my wife and I can barely find time to work on our personal admin. So I figured I'd try to mess around with AI assistants. Today we'll work on getting you to run and set up an AI assistant running on your laptop. One that can manage your personal or business admin and increase your productivity on your day-to-day tasks. I'll walk you through the full setup, and everything you need is in the GitHub repo link below. Let's get into it. I have a folder here that has a bunch of files. We'll go through the important ones. These folders will be part of the GitHub repository I mentioned earlier. It will have all the files you'll need in this guide. The AI assistant we'll use here is called Nanobot. You have several options like OpenClaw, ZeroClaw, and much more. I like Nanobot because it's very lightweight. Anything you need to know, just visit this link. On your terminal or IDE, open up the file called config.json. But what is it for? This is where we will set any configuration in connecting with models, MCP servers, or the way you chat with your assistant, or any authorization tokens, and everything else related to Nanobot. Because we'll need tokens and credentials in order to make this work, and some of these things will cost money. We need to protect them. Therefore, we will keep these secrets out of the config.json and place them all on an env file. Now, if you're new to env files, it's just a file where you store key value pairs, things like API tokens, URLs, or secrets that your application needs to run. The reason we keep these separate from config.json is so sensitive values don't accidentally end up in version control. You could technically export these one by one in a terminal, but that gets tedious very quickly. So I use env files instead. And then the keys on that env file is what we'll use on the config. So instead of me using the minimal configuration, which you can read from the link I showed, I'll use this fully set up config already. I'll include it on the repository as usual. So let's go through what's in the config. There are a few top-level keys you need to know about. First is the providers. This is where you put your credentials, API keys, endpoint URLs. If you're using OpenAI, Anthropic, a self-hosted server, whatever you have, this is where Nanobot knows how to reach it. Next are agents. This is where you decide what to actually ask for, which model, how many tokens it can use, the temperature, which by the way just controls how predictable the model is. A low temperature means it gives you a consistent, focused answers. High temperature means it gets more creative, more random. For an agent that's running tools and doing work for you, you probably want it low. Next are channels. This is how you talk to your assistant, like Telegram, Discord, a web UI, Slack. These are all just different ways to send and receive messages from the same bot. Next is the API. This one comes in more if you want to control your Nanobot programmatically. Like from a script or another application, most people won't touch this early on. Next is the gateway. This is the main process. When you run Nanobot Gateway, it spins up all your channels, starts the background jobs, and keeps everything running. Nothing works without this. Lastly, tools. These are the capabilities you give your assistant, like web search, shell access, browser automation, file access. Without tools, it can only talk. With tools, it can actually do things. So the idea is, we'll use a Docker Compose file to build and run everything we need for Nanobot. If you haven't used Docker Compose before, it basically lets you define multiple containers as services in a single file. You can configure how they talk to each other, where files get saved, and spin them all up in one command. It's really convenient when you have more than one container that need to work together. Ours will point to a couple of files that we'll set up next. Oh, another thing I want to point out is that, like any AI assistant, we'll be using channels, and on this one we'll just use Telegram, as that's the easiest to set up. But you can also use different ones like Discord, Slack, custom ones like Matrix. Here's a link where you can find how to configure other channels. And to complete the setup with Telegram, we're going to need to create a Telegram bot and get our token from it. So let's open up Telegram real quick. We'll open that bot folder and create the Telegram bot. So you can grab the token to pass on to your AI assistant, and then update our env file. We'll also update our Telegram configuration so that we'll be the only one that can converse to it, for now at least. Feel free to add more users as you see fit. So let me pull up the Docker file. This is what tells Docker how to build the container I mentioned earlier. What to install, what scripts to run, basically everything the assistant needs to work. You won't need to write any of this yourself though. Everything's in the repository. So just follow the terminal commands I run and you should be okay. Let me know if something doesn't work and I'll fix it. Oh, and if you want help figuring out the right AI setup for your business, I do a free 15-minute guidance call. Links in the description. So usually, we would build our Docker images one by one. But since we have Docker Compose, I can just simply run Docker Compose up and it will automatically build non-existent images and run them in one script. Okay, so we'll run Docker Compose now. I will keep this Docker Compose running so I can show you the interaction logs. Let's open up the Telegram bot chat and say hi to it. Okay, cool. I also want to check which directory it has access to. For nanobots, they have an area called a workspace. Try this out so you can get familiar with it. Great, that worked. Now let's put it to work and have it write an application for us. My goal here is to have a small application that we can interact with to save some data. Our main interface is Telegram and we'll have the data saved in a small database to make sure our assistant can easily grab them for review. We'll not only have a reliable small database, but a way where we can actually check the data online in case there's an issue with the Telegram connection. So here we go. Now to see if it actually is running the application it made, I've asked how to access the app and I got an endpoint. So we'll try that. We can't really get to that yet as the Docker container does not allow that port that it used for the application. What we'll do is we'll shut the current container down right now, update the Docker Compose and run it back up again. There it is. You can actually see the data you placed in. Let's now try to get this to add some appointments and students. You'll notice that it won't do any curl request. Curl is a command you use on the terminal so you can try to reach an endpoint programmatically. I will have to fix this, but since I'm going to end up allowing it to use the curl command, what we'll do is we'll separate the application from this nanobot container. This way will contain all the things that the AI assistant needs to its own sandbox environment, and will only allow the AI assistant to use curl to a specific address for security reasons. That's it. You should have a fully working AI assistant hosted on your own laptop. If you need help building something like this for your specific use case, or you're stuck on a step and want to walk through it together, I do free 15-minute guidance calls to see what you need to work on and figure out how to fix them. Links in the description. Let's agree on a time and I'll talk to you there.